Tony's right. So this is going to be my Vlogmas Writermas videos again. So I have my notes of what I want to write or what I want to say in each video, kind of just a general theme of it. So this is going to be a best of fiction for me in 2025. Essentially, I'm just going to go over some of the books that I really enjoyed this year that I read. It's not that many. It's not that complicated. It's really not that. So I am gonna go to my theme. And yeah, so these are basically stories that I read this year. I just want to make sure I don't have anything. Okay, so I'm gonna look at my Amazon list because I don't have physical copies of anything. I have digital copies, and I mentioned these books in my semester wrap up. I think it's semester wrap up. Oh no, day three, what I read for one of my classes. And so I'm just going to talk about my favorite ones more so. So it may feel a little bit redundant, but that's kind of what I want to do. So there's two books that I really enjoyed for this class, and there's a few that were they were that was cool. But two of them I really enjoyed. So the first one is Fever Dream, which is by Samantha Schweblin, and it was translated by Megan McDowell. So Fever Dream is essentially about kind of different, it felt like different, it was very good. First of all, it was very confusing to figure out what was happening. But essentially they're in this space, the countryside, of what we can suspect to be the Argentina. I think Samantha is from there, and there's a lot of things that end up happening that lead to the illnesses of several of the characters. But the way that the story is structured is very confusing because you kind of know who's talking, you kind of don't know sometimes who's talking. I feel like I figured out what was happening in the story, but it's very confusing. But essentially there's an ecological kind of disaster that happens that is the cause of, and it's man-made. It's a man-made ecological disaster that causes the people to get sick. And so the main character is talking to another character, and they are trying to review how they got to this point. I really enjoyed this story for how it was told. It's not really the characters or anything like that, because I feel like you could just swap names out and perspectives, but I think how it was told really got me. I said in another video that one of the things that came up in somebody's presentation, because we had to present on authors, is that psychoanalysis apparently is really big, or was big at some point in Argentina. And there's a lot of in Latin America in general, there's a lot of trauma that exists because there's been a lot of guerrilla warfare and being in the US, being a U.S. citizen. We know there's a part that country is played in that and stuff like that, but there's a lot of trauma of people going missing, people never seeing family members again. A lot of violence has taken place, and people are still dealing with that. And I think this book kind of touches on that, but from an ecological perspective, that there is a lot of trauma that's going on because of these events that are taking place. And this book is a psychoanalytic thing that's it's an exploration of this stuff. I really enjoy the structuring of it as well, how liminal it feels, how confusing it is, how it's pretty much not how I've ever read any other book, and I like that. I like that there's just a lot of questions about what's happening. But the funny thing about you having questions as a reader is that the one of the two main characters that are talking in dialogue, is questioning things as well. But the one that she's responding to is trying to walk her up to this point of understanding what has happened. And there's almost like a fatalist idea behind that there's nothing you really could have done. Everything is determined also. Kind of attitude. It's just, I don't, it's really good. It is a fatalist kind of thing, because it literally says in the book, it doesn't matter. You just need to know what led up to it, because nothing you do is going to change anything with regards to the ecological disaster and its effects. Essentially, people were poisoned, and there's nothing you can do about that. What you just need to know is that this is how it happened for you to deal. And so I wrote a poem about, a paper about one of the characters being a psychopomp, and that this person was actually on their deathbed. And I really could have expanded the paper even more by saying that this entity, this person that's talking to them, is the other half that transmigrated and is trying to help them deal with, like, essentially being poisoned and dying, because, like, that's kind of what's happening, because the question of am I going to die is coming up, and it's like, yes. So it's a lot going on in the story. I really enjoy the fatalist. We kind of already know how it ends based on, like, the responses the characters are given, but it's such a masterfully, like, told story to me, because again, I haven't encountered a way of writing until now. Anyway, okay, let me read some of it. Okay, so let's literally start at the beginning. Okay. They're like worms. What kind of worms? Like worms all over. It's the boy who's talking, murmuring into my ear. I am the one asking questions. The worms in the body? Yes, in the body. Earthworms? No, another kind of worms. It's dark and I can't see. The sheets are rough. They bunch up under my body. I can't move, but I'm talking. It's the worms. You have to be patient and wait. And while we wait, we have to find the exact moment when the worms come into being. Why? Because it's important. It's very important for us all. I try to nod, but my body doesn't respond. What else is happening in the yard outside the house? Am I in the yard? No, you're not. But caller, your mother is. I met her a few days ago when we first got to the vacation house. And then it starts to go into a little bit more. Are you sure these kinds of comments are necessary? Do we have time for this? Your observations are very important. Why are you in the yard? Because we've just gotten back from the lake, and your mother doesn't want to come into my house. She wants to save you any trouble. What kind of trouble? I have to go inside anyway. First for some iced tea with lemon, then for the sunscreen. That doesn't seem like she's saving me any trouble. Why did you go to the lake? And then starts to ask questions. And so these questions that you would psychoanalyze, hypnosis, kind of like get at, you know. And I find it very interesting that it's a Latin American author, because we associate, especially here in the U.S., with magical realism, which is like a huge thing that you could really think about with Latin American writing, but definitely helps I feel like it it leads into that too. So here, Wikipedia. Magical realism, magic realism, marvelous realism is a style of fiction or art that presents a realistic view of the world while incorporating magical elements, often blurring the lines between speculation and reality. Yeah, there's just a lot that leans into that space, and I'm appreciative of it. So that is really my top story of the entire like year, because really I only read fiction for this class, and this is it. So this is my first really big book of the year that I really enjoy and really like get on it. I want to read more of their work, and I want to read more people who are like them. So let me see, authors like. Let me see if there's some other authors. So they gave me Octavia Butler. That's cool. Caitlin R. Kiernan. I feel like, were they on the list? No, they weren't on the list. I heard it. Somebody mentioned them, I feel like, in class. Fernando Melchor, Monica Ojeda, Mariana Enriquez, Agostina Basterica. So essentially Latin America. I need to go Latin American for this. Okay, cool. I will be doing that. Next, other book that I found incredibly great, was, and I go back to my orders, Signs Preceding the End of the World, which is also another Latin American writer. So this is about a girl, Makina. She kind of like talks to these, I guess they could be like the black market, drug lord type people. Anyway, she's tasked with going across the border to this unknown land. We don't know what the land is, but we can assume that it's the US and Mexico border, like crossing that border. Like crossing that to get to the other side and deliver this to someone. She's also looking for her brother who left years ago, or left a while ago. I think it's years ago though. And is trying to figure out where he is. And on the way there, she encounters like different obstacles and people and shit like that. And that's her like journey. But the book is written, again, when we get the context, the book is written in the style of thinking about the Mexica underworld. And so the closest it would be to like Dante's Inferno type, like something like that. And so each chapter is kind of like a level of the underworld with a new observance of the underworld, a new observance of the people who are inhabiting these spaces, because she's migrating, right? So she's in this liminal space that would be considered like death, right? And so it's exploring death of identity and loss of identity and remembrance of identity, things like that happen when you leave a physical place, go to another physical place, and the changes that happen to you, like with language, with regards to like you as a person, because you as a person, this blueprint ultimately changes by way of migration, right? And so we kind of get that. And one of my people in my class did not like this book, which is like very upsetting, because they liked the book that I absolutely fucking hated. But I feel like people didn't understand that this book, especially the author's decision to write a story, because this person could have written the story with Dante's Inferno in mind, but they didn't write it with Dante's Inferno in mind. They did it with the Mexica underworld in mind, because you're talking about a group of people who are assessing their own death in terms of their own cultures. First, by the Spaniards that came and colonized the land, and second, by way of migration out of the land to another land, presumably America, United States of America, and the double death that occurs when you not only are subjected but have integrated a level of colonization and then going somewhere else and experiencing that level of colonization and assimilation, to write the story within the native, not the Spanish native, but the Mexican native mythology is profound. And I think it's getting at the idea of like almost a double consciousness that an African American will have, that we talk about. Like in society, we are a certain way, and at home with our people who are of us, we are another way, and that there is a death there, but it's just it's functioning differently. So I really enjoyed this story for how it's told. I enjoyed the language of this more. I enjoyed the language of this more, but it's like I enjoyed this one more in terms of language, but I enjoyed the other one in terms of like just structure. Like I get the structure of this and I really like it and I think it's really profound, but the language on this one is whoo, like I really love it. The structuring of how things get told, and the other one is really spectacular. So this is by Yuri Herrera, translated by Lisa Dillman, and then so I really liked this kind of thing. Okay, so those were the rules Makina abided by, and that was why she was respected in the village. She ran the switchboard with the only phone for miles and miles around. It rang, she answered. They asked for so-and-so. She said, I'll go get them. Call back in a bit, and your person will pick up, or I'll tell you what time you can find them. Sometimes they called from nearby villages, and she answered them in native tongue or Latin tongue. Sometimes, more and more these days, they called from the north. These were the ones who'd often already forgotten the local lingo, so she responded to them in their own new tongue. Makina spoke all three and knew how to keep quiet in all three too. Come on. She knew how to keep quiet in all three? Come on, bro. Like, and then where's another one of her body? Okay. This is a place where the hills meet 3, in chapter 3. Then off in the distance she glimpsed a tree, and beneath the tree a pregnant woman. She saw her belly before her legs or her face or her hair, and saw she was resting there in the shade of the tree. And she thought, if that was any sort of omen, it was a good one. A country where a woman with child walking through the desert just lies right down to let her baby grow, unconcerned about anything else. But as she approached, she discerned the features of this person who was no woman, nor was that belly full with child. It was some poor wretch swollen with putrefaction, his eyes and tongue pecked out by buzzards. Makina turned to look at Chulo and to see if he had been fooled, but he hadn't. And let me see, this. There was one about her brother that was like so cool. I really, I don't know, I really enjoyed it, and boo. I don't know where it is. I think it's at the beginning. Okay, I can't find it. But anyway, I really... Oh, okay. Here it is. It said, Cora merely looked at him, fed up, and didn't say... So Cora's her mom. Merely looked at him, fed up. This is the brother who's not really named in the story. Fed up and didn't say a word until she saw him at the door with his rucksack full of odds and ends, and said, let him go, let him learn to fend for himself with his own big balls. And he hesitated a moment before he versed. And in the doubt flickering in his eyes, you could see he spent his whole life like that, holding back his tears, but before letting them out, he turned in verse and only ever came back in the form of 2 or 3 short lines he sent a long while later. Really enjoyed this book. Really enjoyed how it was structured, but I especially enjoyed the language. And yeah, I think that we should explore writing like this, like both Fever Dream and Signs Preceding the End of the World, because I think they just bring something different to what I feel like a lot of people are reading. So I especially want to get more into books that are leaning in this direction, because they work more with my animist leanings and they work more with my surrealist writing leanings, and I think that would help. Anyway, thank you for watching the best of fiction. That's all I have to say about both. I especially enjoyed both of these books. Latin American writers are going to be on my look out for them 2026 based on these two, and these were my absolute favorites of the year. So thank you for watching. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.